Hello everyone. Welcome to another Tuesday night Eventide Patreon only member stream. How is everyone doing here this fine evening? I'm happy to be joining you here at the start of November. It is the 1st, and today is the official start of the NaNoWriMo month. It always takes place in November. I'm not sure why they picked November. I guess it's a good time to make people write. There it is. My chat wasn't loading properly. Hey there, everybody. Hey there, Laura Capricola. How you doing? Tonight I figured I would take a moment to touch base with all of the patrons, the ones who are here and the ones who may come and watch this later, and just talk about what's about to happen or what is in the process of happening. Last week, I reached out to everyone to talk about my plans for the month and kind of frankly talk about how the project had slowed down a bit. And it has. And I've got a pretty good idea about how to get it moving again, and I've actually already started that process here today. So last week I talked to folks here about it, then I launched a poll, and the basic gist of it was, with me going into the month of November, and November being NaNoWriMo, I've always had good luck using NaNoWriMo to get work done, to get chunks of writing accomplished. It's a good way to engage me in the writing process. It works for me. And 2 years ago or 4 years ago, I took part in Nano and used that to write a good chunk of Eventide material. And then I think I skipped a year, and then last year I came back to it. Actually, I can see all the projects I've been doing. I don't even need to I don't have to guess. They're all visible. Yes. The first one of these was in 2019. So I did 2019, then I skipped 2020 and did 2021. So I was correct on that. In 2019, I used NaNoWriMo to put down a whole bunch of words on the Eventide setting, but I never quite finished it. It kind of got to that point and just kind of ended. I did put more work into it after that, but it still didn't finally kind of kickstart the engine and get it going. Then, honestly, the pandemic hit. 2020 is kind of a blur, and fast forward to last year. And last year, I used it to pull a bunch of thoughts together, but I didn't actually succeed. I didn't actually succeed at last year's Nano. And I was trying to rack my brain as to why, and it's because I invented a card game instead and counted that as part of my progress, which led to Elephant in the Room. So that was last year's Nano. Now, this year, I'm doing something a little different. Well, not really a little different. I'm going back to the original model, which was getting Eventide work done via Nano. So the Nano project has already launched. I'm going to go ahead and post a link to it here in the discussion. There is one in the description for this video. We'll go ahead and put that up so that folks can see it. That is the link to my Nano page. It is public, and I just realized that I still have this project listed as prepping, and it changed. We'll go ahead and change that. All right. So that is the progress itself. I started today. It's the 1st. You don't start until the 1st. And the goal is to write 50,000 words in the month of November. To make that happen, you need to write 1,667 words a day. Today I put down 1,700. It's a good start, nothing outrageous. It's what I had time for between work this morning and lunch. So, on other days there may be more. I hope that there aren't very many days where there are less. Because I've got to keep pace to hit 50. So I do want to talk about what I'm going to be doing during this. I want to kind of give everybody a broad scope idea, because this isn't really broken down by content types. It's just a word counter. That will be there throughout this project, and I will be updating it daily. The only thing you'll see change is the number count, right? It doesn't really include synopsises or breakdowns. And frankly, I wouldn't want to put those in there anyway, because I tend to bounce around and write text in different parts when I'm in kind of a purely creative mode, because I let my imagination take me to where it wants to go. But I will get to the general categories that I'm hoping to accomplish here over the next month or so. Now, this video, this chat here, is probably going to be one of the only ones that I do for the month of November. I may do a touch base in the middle of the month. Do something short on a Tuesday again, maybe around, 2 weeks from now, around the 15th. Just a short touch base to be like, here's where I'm at, here's where I'm going. Things are going well, I hope. Other than that, I'm going to pretty much go heads down. I'm going to do my standard Twitch streams. I'm still going to play games with Dan, and you'll still find me on Tuesday nights playing, probably Wrath of the Righteous for the rest of them. But other than that, I'm gonna give myself a break from doing these streams, because frankly, what I'm going to be updating you on is just like, yep, progress is being made on the adventure, right? That doesn't mean that other things won't be happening, right? I've got 2 home session games this week, both of which were kind of rescheduled to fit. There is one happening tomorrow and one happening Thursday, back-to-back nights. So, the playtest of the adventure is going to continue, because that's kind of just, frankly, kind of fun. And not like work at all. But other than that, I'm just going to be focusing on getting Eventide done. As a result, I paused payment on the Patreon for the month of November. All of you who had payments occur on the first of the month, because it now occurs whenever you sign up. So, it now rolls on whatever day you signed up. It used to be a monthly thing. It was really weird. Now it's set that the moment you sign up, you get charged, and then it charges you again a month later. So for the next 30 days, no one's getting charged. After that, it'll be on your normal day, which for most of the people in this Patreon is going to be the first. So I paused for this month, but I one of the things I asked in the survey was, hey, if I'm not going to be doing this, I want to pause payments. What do folks think about that, right? Do you want me to pause payments? Do you not want me to pause payments? Do you want me to not stop doing videos, or do you got some other idea? And the majority of folks who answered the survey said that they didn't want me to stop payments. The problem was, that wasn't the majority of people in the Patreon. If it was, I might have considered differently. But it was 62% of the 30 people who voted. And there's 90 patrons. So only a third voted, and 2/3, 60% of those. So, it's of the 90 people, there were 18, 19, maybe as many as 20 people who voted to keep the payments going. That wasn't a plurality to me. And instead of charging all of the folks who, maybe, wouldn't appreciate that, because I don't know their opinion, the easier thing for me to do was just to pause payments and to create an alternative way for folks who wanted to maybe kick me a little money if they want. And it's not required, it's not mandatory at all, but I've been meaning to for a while set up a KoFi, just that's not that I'm in desperate need of money or anything. I'm pretty financially secure. But for this project, if folks want to continue to contribute to it this month, I have set up a KoFi. So, this is just a way to donate money to folks. It's really straightforward. There's nothing special about it. I'll put the link here. The link will also be in the description. It'll also be over on the Patreon. So, by no means mandatory. I don't need this. But for folks who did want to continue to contribute, that does exist. I will gladly take your donations and put them towards Eventide. Now, that brings me around to the other challenge I was facing. So, on one hand, I had the summer convention schedule and the summer kind of busyness schedule interrupt a lot of my playtesting. So, the playtesting of part 2 of Wolfland's Fate really slowed down to a crawl. And that's been affecting me even as much as last week. I had 1 or 2 games cancel, and, I'm hoping it stabilizes here going into the winter months. But I have to admit, it's been rough going for the past 2 or 3 months. I've had a lot of games not fire. Alar's asking, why isn't it buy me a whiskey? You know, it was gonna be buy me a whiskey, but to make that happen, I have to pay them a monthly subscription fee of like $8 or something. If you pay for it, you can change it to whatever you want. I don't know that I've got anybody donating to me on this, so I'm not going to set up a subscription for something that I may not use all that much. So for right now, it's buy me a coffee. You know, I mean, obviously it should be buy me a scotch, but I'd have to change the price from $5 to like $10 because you can't get a good scotch. I don't want a scotch for $5. That's just what I'm saying. So, yeah. The other challenge. So I've been facing a challenge getting my playtest scripts to fire, and I think that's gonna smooth out here. At least I hope so. I'm gonna hit the holidays, and that's gonna be tricky. But then we'll roll around to the new year, and things should be pretty sailing. But the other thing I've been having troubles with is getting part 1 of Wolfen's Fate finished. I handed it off to an editor. The editor has not come through. And I am in the process of now entirely disentangling myself from this editor and finding a new editor to tackle Wolfen's Fate. Now, I was hoping that there would be at least some progress made, but the editor in question is not even comfortable turning that over to me. So I guess I'm back to square one. These sorts of things happen. They happen to big companies. They happen to small companies. I think I have learned a valuable lesson here not to put, not to allow anything other than the letter of the contract to guide the discussion. And as a result, I just kind of got strung along in a way that looking back, I should not have done. So that's on me. But it's something I'm in the process of fixing. So I'm going to find a new editor for Wolfen's Fate. And I'm going to hire them and ask them to go through it. Now, this is going to take me a little bit. But hopefully it means I can find someone who's going to be a bit more consistent for me and get the job. I'm worried about how long this is going to take and when I'm going to be able to get it done. There may come a point in time where I just sit down and take a hard editing pass on it myself and call that good. That's perhaps not up to my standards, and maybe I save a professional edit for later. I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet, but I'm trying to make that decision. It's a challenge for me right now, and that is kind of sitting way. Yeah, I don't know that I'm exactly in square one, but I'm pretty close to it. I don't think I'm going to get anything out of this, and that's really unfortunate because it's been like 3 months, and frankly, after it was a month late, I should have pulled the ripcord, but you know how it is. Just 1 more week. No worries. I'll get you stuff in 1 more week. That happened for 3 months. So anyway, it's a very complicated issue, and I don't really want to make a big deal out of it because it was a challenge, it was a mistake, and I've learned from it, and I'm moving on. Frankly, I mostly feel bad for the editor who just was not able to bring this in. So that whole process has now is in the process of concluding, and within the next few days, I should be able to cleanly chart a route forward. Now, those things being said, the next month, I am really looking forward to being in a much more purely creative, productive mode. So starting today, I just literally opened up the adventure and started doing some more writing. I've been kind of writing to fill my adventures or my playtest sessions because I know what they're about to be, so I've just been writing what I need. I am now past what I need, and every day I'm going to increase what I am past what I need by another 1,700 words. So I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to run these 2 games today and tomorrow. By the next time I run a playtest game, I'll have the entire script for part 2 done. Because part 2 is I'm almost done writing it. So I don't believe that's going to take me that much longer. I believe the final sewer encounters and that sort of stuff is probably a grand total of 5,000 or 6,000 words tops. So grand total, this thing's coming together pretty quickly, and the entire thing will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 15,000 to 20,000 words, I think. It's always weird when you start a Nano and it isn't for like a specific manuscript. right? So if you're starting a nano and it's not, come on, where are you? Oh, there you are. When you start a nano and it's not for like a brand new project, I have to start by taking the word count that exists in the document and then add to it. So I have an Excel spreadsheet I use to kind of keep track of it. And it does all the math for me, so I know how many words I've written each day. All I have to do is update the total word count for the document. So, yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, I should be able to have part 2 of the adventure done. And then, frankly, my goal is to just roll right into parts 3 and 4. I am, however, going to allow myself to bounce over to the GM's guide when I need a break. When adventure writing isn't what I feel like doing that day and I just want to go tinker around with something creative or some part of the setting, I have the GM's guide to be my backup. I personally find that when I'm writing, it's good to have 2 things that I'm cycling my writing on, especially if they're both involved in the same project. Because what it does is it allows me to kind of hit a roadblock and go, all right, I'm gonna pause on this and let myself noodle about it. You know, when I go for my walks and things like that, I'll just think about things. And then I'm gonna go write something that's easier. You know, I'm gonna continue making progress, but I'm gonna do so in a different document on a different thing. That way, I'm at least being productive, even if I'm not solving this one problem. I find that this is the best way to keep me moving and ensure that I am hitting my... So that's the part that's a little weird about this nano. I'm aiming for 50,000 words of Eventide content. Where does that come from? Wherever. What it won't be is revisions of old content. I will not count that. I think in December, I might make December be revision month, where if the adventure is done being written or close to it, I'll finish writing the adventure. And then December will be revision month, where I go through the player's guide and revise a bunch of things in there, because I already know there's a few things in there that are flawed that I want to fix. And then also go through the adventure and give it another. So my goal here is to kind of just, frankly, produce. I would very much like to, in the early part of next year, release both the player's guide, the GM's guide, and the adventure. And I'd like to do that before the summer convention circuit so that I can, you know, do some POD copies or something like that and actually have something to show off. So that's kind of the goal. And this month is a great month to kind of do that sort of stuff. There isn't an awful lot going on, you know, with me at work. I mean, I've got plenty of work responsibility. But the other big thing I was doing is done, which is because Hope Fighter is now out, and I'm not putting anything else out for it, at least here in the near future. I may put something, you know, another expansion out for it in the next few months, but nothing this month. The game's out. It needs to do what it's going to do before I start putting it. So, yeah, that's what we got going on. So that's the game plan for the month here. It is November 1st. The NaNoWriMo has officially begun. My pace for this, I'm on pace. And looking at the calendar, the next time I will return to regular Tuesday night streamings will not be until December 6th. Now, as I said, I may throw another stream in here just like on the 15th just to touch base. And, you know, hopefully give some updates on the editing situation and talk about the writing that's been done. But other than that, I'm pretty much going to go dark. I'm going to go heads down, as they say. You know, I need to put on my headset and go heads down and just do some writing. Not allow myself to get distracted or mess around with other products, right? Although I will admit that came together so amazingly quickly that I'm not sure how much it actually cost Eventide. I wrote that thing in record time. It just flowed right out of. Alara's asking if I have a new editor lined up. I do not have an individual in mind just yet. I'm kind of waiting for one last piece of disentanglement to happen before I start looking for another one. My relationship with the previous editor, I'm trying to make sure it doesn't end poorly, and part of that may lead me to another editor. So there's a bit of a tricky kind of thing I'm in the middle of, just trying to negotiate one last thing or two. And before I do that, I need to make sure there's a couple things that are true statements. So it's complicated. It has to do with the contract. It's not really worth discussing, but it'll be resolved here in the next few days. I can always just pull the trigger and fire the cancellation, but I'm trying to make sure of one thing before I do. You know, it's a trick. But the thing I'm going to want is a person who's familiar with editing Pathfinder 2nd Edition material. And that's the trick. Because I'm not just looking for someone to be able to do a grammar edit. They need to be able to do mechanical editing. And realize, you know, oh, you used make instead of attempt on a check. We always use attempt. Like that make isn't wrong, but attempt is the word we use. Little things like that, like the editing of a RPG, especially one that has kind of more precise language like Pathfinder, is something that it's best to have a skilled and experienced technical editor for. So that process should be kicking up here soon. So that's kind of the goal. Now, if everything goes according to plan and I can engage with a new editor, there's a decent chance that the PDF for part 1 of Wolfram's Fate may come together faster than I think, because I did all of the pre-layout work. I have the pages laid out. In that, I know what they look like, and all I have to do is flow the text and do the copy fit, which should go relatively quick. So, you know, I was able to flow and copy fit all of Hopefinder in 2 days, and that's over 100 pages. So this content should come together pretty quickly once I'm able to clear this final hurdle. Now, I don't want to make any promises about when it's going to come out because, frankly, I'm not doing that until I have some concrete things in place, and I'm sure things are moving forward. But I am hoping to actually get part 1 of Wolfram's Fate laid out and done before the end of the year. That's my goal. That's the one goal I will set for myself. Whether or not I can hit it, will depend. I'm going to have to see, you know, who the new editor is and what their time is, right? I may not be able to find an editor who can do it in the time that I have. So that is the tricky bit. So, yeah, that's kind of all that I have here for today. You know, I spent a good chunk of time here today writing bits for the kind of codifying out all of the encounters for the scary parts of the adventure that's about to happen to my 2 groups over the next 2 days. So instead of just having kind of in a loose note form, I now have it in written RPG rules text, so it's all set and ready to go with box text and all that kind of stuff. So my next 2 sessions have now become easy, and then beyond that, I'm going to be writing ahead of them. So that does mean that, you know, the playtest will probably revise some of that text more than it would have before. When I did Wolfram's Fate, or the first part of Wolfram's Fate, the adventure changed significantly because I rewrote parts of it based on playtest feedback. Then at the end of part 1 and into part 2, I was writing much closer to, and then sometimes almost overlapping. So I was able to kind of write a little looser for the playtest and then firm it up with the playtest notes. And it was less work overall, but it was more seat of my pants. Whereas now we'll be back to the previous way. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on right now. I really don't have a lot else to talk about. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them here. There's only a handful of folks here in the chat tonight. I think there was a lot of folks who didn't even think I was going to be streaming this. So, but I did want to reach out and touch base one last time before I kind of went fully head down, and focused on my writing. Yeah, that's what I got going on, folks. Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. That's all I have here for tonight. I have another stream starting in about half an hour, so I think I'm going to call it here a hair early tonight, and let this be what it's going to be instead of just blathering on about the same thing over and over and over again. So for all of you who are following me for the next month, no one can sign up to the Patreon for the next month. While payment is paused, no one can sign up. So it's just this group for the next month, and then the month after that, we'll go back to having signups and that again. Frankly, the delay has been, we've lost a handful of folks who have pulled their support. So, I got to go back into building mode on this just so that I can make sure that I can secure the funds for art and stuff to make this happen. Is Nano going to be the only, is only going to be the adventure, or is it going to be the source book as well? It's mostly going to be the adventure. However, I'm going to use the source book, the James book, as my kind of release valve for when I'm stuck on the adventure. And I may get to the point where once I've written part 3, I actually pause writing the adventure and then go work on the source book. Because I really do want to make sure the source book is moving forward, and that requires, that still needs about 20,000 words worth of writing. 20 to 30,000 words. So that's a lot. But the adventure still needs 40,000 words. So there's a decent chance that it'll be split up between the two, and by the end I won't have finished either one, but both of them will be within striking distance. We'll see how it plays out. I may decide to power through one or the other, depending on how my writing brain goes. So, all right, folks. That's all I have here tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your support. For those of you who do want to support me through this month of November, check out the KoFi. I do encourage all of you to keep tabs on me on both social media and on the NaNoWriMo page. The links are in the description for this video. They'll also be over on the Patreon, and you should be able to follow my progress there. I'm going to be updating that thing every day, assuming that I keep up my writing pace. So that's what we got, folks. I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you for coming here tonight. We'll see some of you over at Twitch here in just a bit. Until then, we'll see you in a month. Wish me luck. Good gaming, and we'll see you next time.